So for me, this is a really interesting statistic. So 90% of people are aware that food waste is an issue, but only 67% agree that they are making an effort to tackle this. And this can be quite common, this what we call the intention action gap. So where our intentions don't match our actions, or our values don't match what we actually do. And also telling people why food waste is a bad thing isn't just enough to change behaviours, as you'll be well aware. As I just said, there's lots of things that drive our behaviour, lots of things that are at play. So I'm just going to say a little bit about introducing food waste collections now, and this will be interesting as well if you already have food waste collections as well. So when you first introduce food waste collections, the thing I would say is there's a temptation to skimp on the comms, but I would avoid doing that. So using all the channels that you have at your disposal, so online, social media, leaflets, all that kind of thing. So to give you a bit of context, so WRAP recommends spending around £1.50 per household on your comms. So that's a decent amount of money if you're rolling something out. And I think that's the thing that I would really focus on. So you do the basics very well. You plan out why you all the kind of key points that you want to get across to residents, why they should use food waste caddies, how to use a caddy, explain what can and can't be recycled, when will food waste be collected, and make sure you have this really clear plan. And I think the bit that I would say do not skimp on is the bit in advance of the campaign. So I think in terms of what you do, in terms of when you launch a new service and then tell people what to do, that's the bit that's probably easiest to do. But actually making sure you have that kind of teaser leaflet, that teaser campaign, it's really worth the investment. And for me, it's the thing that will mitigate any sort of backlash a lot and is really, really worth doing. And in terms of other things that you're going to do, you should do, we'll hear from John Paul later. And for me, programmatic is really, really useful. It's much more cost effective than other forms of advertising. And I'll let John Paul explain that a bit more. It can be very targeted. You can rebut things very quickly. So one of the things that is really important to have is when you're giving out caddies for the first time, so when you're going around your whole local authority area and you're giving out caddies, you will miss residents. So there will always be missed residents. So having a plan to make sure that they can report that they didn't get a caddy when you first roll it out is really important. And that's something that programmatic can help with, and lots of other things as well. So in terms of design, so I'm a big fan when you're designing all your comms to roll it out, or in later stages once you've got it in train. For me, using graphics, really easy to understand, clear design, making it as accessible as possible. So if there's lots of people, for instance, who don't speak English as their first language, it's really easy to understand. But just in terms of behavioural design, thinking about how you use images and graphics so that people can look at something, glance away and get the message really clearly. So spend a lot of time making your design clear and simple. Consistency for me is also really, really important. So there's enough confusion around food waste and recycling, people not knowing what to do. So I'm a big fan of using a WRAP iconography and keeping things consistent. So there's consistent messages across different local authorities. And I'm going to move over to increasing food waste recycling rates. So once you've got your kind of collections in train, thinking about what are the kinds of things you can do to get those rates up. So for me, one of the key things is always thinking about what is the problem, and always spending as much time as you can in that insight phase, getting a picture of what the barriers are. Okay, so I'm going to move to the final bit of my presentation now, which is all around reducing food waste. So before you kind of get to recycling your food waste, getting people to minimize what they do. So reducing food waste is a huge issue. And one of the biggest issues here is people cooking, preparing and serving too much food. And one of the campaigns that I've really been impressed with is, so if you've seen Wrap's recent campaign on buying loose, I was just going to talk through that briefly because I think that's a really good example of unpicking behaviour change. And if you get a chance, do read through their Unpacking Fresh Fruit and Veg, their behavioural insight study. Really fascinating, really robust, really in depth. And what they found is that one thing that will make a difference is telling people to buy loose, because people who are buying loose told them that they're wasting less food as a result. And I really like this, and I think it's really good because it's always easier to focus on shifting one behaviour. So when I work with people, I always try and get them to hone in on one or two things, because the more you hone in on one behaviour, the more likely it is you'll get people to change what they do. And it's also a really good message for local authorities to get behind. So that message around kind of buying local, buying loose, and also during a cost of living crisis, people don't have a lot of money. That motivates people to change their behaviour. So what can we do in response? So there's lots of interventions based on behaviour change theory that can really help. So writing things down, planning, helping people to write a flexible meal plan, chunking things up, encouraging people to make a list of things that they need to get from the shops, sticking to that list, storing things in the fridge. So lots of us don't know that, I think in fact half the population, that the average UK fridge temperature is set at least 2 degrees too warm. So that's a big thing we can do to make food last for longer. And also there's lots of myths around kind of freezing things as well.
This was a campaign run in Reading around launching a food waste initiative there, a collection service, just showing, defining the behaviour, explaining why it happens that way, showing images of the things that can be recycled: bones, meat, fish, cheese, all those sort of things. It's worth being clear in everything that you do. That point that Dominic made around consistency. This one from Hounslow had tons of variants, tons of different creatives in it, and you can see the data again here, which ads resonated, and we can sort of show with whom, and we can also look at search ads linked to food and waste and recipes. One targeting technique is to target sites like BBC Good Food and recipe sites around weekends to get people and prompt them to put the food caddy near them whilst they're cooking. This was one run in Richmond that I thought was brilliant. Again, lots and lots of different adverts, lots and lots of different approaches. And behaviours being placed, but there are these common themes of sort of socially norming and specifying the behaviours that I think, when considered, showing explicitly what needs to happen and planting those in people's minds hundreds of thousands, millions of times. We can also then zoom in on food waste. So what terms are people typing in? And you can isolate individuals and see there's things like questions, recycling, bones and so on. But food waste is actually quite a high volume term. And if you want to understand what these volumes are in your area, I'm more than happy to run a localized report for you. But it helps you understand what's on people's minds, what are they thinking about, what questions are they asking, where's the uncertainty, and so on. And so you can really get a view on maybe what some of your creative messages need to say.